and I love basketball. Oh.
Sorry, we didn't hear that. Can you say that again?
My name's Jacob, and I like basketball.
Yes.
Well, you said you were driving. We already knew you liked basketball, so I guess the fact that you're driving for work is something different. All right.
Be safe and careful, please.
Yeah, I'll tag someone on your behalf. I will tag. Wasn't on. Christian. Awful.
Hey, Ike, before iPhone starts, can we ask whoever is iPhone to just put at least their name on? I think it was Jolie. No, it wasn't Jolie. Jolie's name was on there.
Raisa, I think.
Maybe she can put her name so we don't call her iPhone. There she is. Do you mind putting your name on, please? So we don't refer to you as iPhone.
Yeah, like your name is coming up as
sorry, I didn't know it. I didn't know.
No, it's all good. I think if you go to the settings, you might be able to rename yourself there.
Yeah. Did you guys tag me or what?
No, it's all good. I think we tagged Awful.
Yeah, my name is Afo. I'm Ike's younger brother. I'm currently studying biology at Concordia University in Montreal, even though I'm currently like in Calgary right now. I'm not sure what else to say, honestly. Who else do we have left? I think Junior. Junior has. Yeah.
Hello, I go by the name of Junior. Currently in high school, and I enjoy playing basketball in my free time.
Yeah.
And I also, I like eating too.
Okay.
There's a lot of basketball fans. I think that's why Sam is hiding the Siakam jersey. They didn't make the playoffs, right? So, you gotta forget what's happening. I played. Raisa, have you introduced yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, she has. I think it's Tutu.
Oh,
and
only Tutu.
Julie, have you been? So Tutu, you can go next.
Tutu and then Jolie after that.
Hi, I'm Tutu. I apologize already for the light. All the offices in the house are taken, so I'm in my room and I can't find a position to get away from that. But I'm Tutu. I'm Ike's younger brother and Afo's older brother. Currently, I'm right now I'm in Calgary, but currently I study electrical engineering at the University of Montreal.
Really?
Okay, Jolie.
Maybe she's not here. Well, maybe we can get started.
I think she's driving, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we will get you after she just pays attention. So.
Awesome. Okay, so maybe we can get started. So today is the second component of the, I guess you could say, the financial empowerment piece that we have with the program. I've already given Sam a bit of a background about the program and the wonderful youth that's in it and the wonderful team, the dream team that's working on the project. And I see Dr. Rita is here. Hello, ma'am. And okay, and so I think it's time. Does anybody else want to introduce themselves? And if not, Sam, I think maybe you can go ahead and introduce yourself. I'll just give a brief background. So Sam and I are actually part of Black North Initiative. And so Black North Initiative, I think I may have mentioned it in one of my sessions. It's a group, and at the heart of what we do is Black North, it's the heart of what we do is sort of trying to reduce or eliminate systemic racism, and our focus is on business. And Sam is actually the leader or the chair of I think the business committee or something like that. And I'm the chair of the youth committee or the co-chair. And so we are going to be working collaboratively on different projects. And of course, he's also turned into a friend. And I think I'll leave him to do the rest of his introductions and get started.
Yeah, thank you, Katie, for inviting me. And this is an amazing forum. I'm glad that this is happening. I think in order to achieve the goals that we have as Black people and to fix systemic racism, I think mentorship is important, and I think forums like this are important. My name is Sam. I'm gonna kind of like just introduce myself, talk about what I do for work, talk about my story professionally. I'm going to talk about what I think are table stakes in the professional environment. And then I'm going to talk about starting a business. And then I'm just going to give you some general tips that I've worked in my career and life, generally speaking. And hopefully we have engagement and questions as we go along. But my name is Sam. I work for the Bank of Montreal. I'm Vice President Business Banking. And so what I do is I manage a team of people, and I manage the bank's strategy for businesses in the Calgary marketplace. I have a team of like 12, 13 people that report to me, and they have a team of people that report to them as well. But ultimately, my goal is to make sure that the bank is profitable in the business banking space. Like everyone, like most people on the call today, I love basketball. My Siakam jersey is in the background. I immigrated to Canada 15 years ago, 14 and a half years ago from Nigeria. I immigrated to Windsor, Ontario for university. I think I was there for 4.5 years, where I did my undergrad in economics. When I finished university, I moved on. I moved to Alberta, and I moved to Fort Mac. A lot of my friends were engineers, and at the time, Fort McMurray was booming, and everyone's like, you gotta come out here and get a job. And so at that time, I worked for about 16 months, I believe it was. I worked in Fort Mac for the Bank of Montreal as a financial services manager, was what they called it at the time. I think in my first year working for the bank, I was #1 in Alberta in terms of results in my position. I think there was 105 or 106 of us in Alberta, and I was #1. Anyway, 15 months in, I decided to quit the bank and go get my MBA. So I went to grad school in Windsor, Ontario. I got my MBA in Windsor. And then when I finished, I came back to BMO in 2015. I came back to BMO as an analyst. That was 6 years ago. I'll say 6 years and 3 months ago. In those 6 years, I've done 5 roles. I came back to the bank as an analyst, where I kind of like looked into financial statements, and I was at the back end of things, supporting people. 18 months into that role, 19 months in, my leader came to me, said, we think you should get a promotion. I went on and I took a client-facing role. I became a relationship manager. I did that role for 18 months. And then I became a senior relationship manager because they came to me again and said, you're probably bored doing this. You should do something else. So I took on more complicated tasks, I guess, at the bank. And then I did that for 10 months. And then I went into a role in our risk team in risk management. And finally, I have the role I have now. I took this role 7 months ago. And so that's kind of a brief history of my career. That's kind of what I've done so far. I've been very fortunate. I've done 5 roles in 6.5 years. But there's nothing special about me. There's unique. And I think everybody on this line can achieve even better results. Some of you are studying engineering, psychology, all that good stuff that I heard today. And I think that everyone can achieve these results with a bit of focus and hard work. Before I get into just like career development and what's worked for me, I'm just going to pause to see if anyone has any questions, or if anyone wants to take a stab at what they think you need to develop a career.
I have a question for you, Sam. So I think you touched on it a little bit, but I'd like you to maybe tell us a little bit about what do you think is behind your meteoric rise? In 6 years, you've gone from analyst to VP. So what do you think is behind that? And what can the young people learn from your process?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. I think table stakes is results. And when I talked about how like my first time at the bank, the first role I had in 2012, when I talked about being #1, I wasn't talking about that to brag. I was talking about it because the way to get noticed is to achieve results. And so consistently in my career, my focus has always been on how can I achieve results? How can I achieve top quartile results? At BMO, you get an award if you're the top 7.5% in the country. That's a metric I always look at. That's a metric I always judge myself by to make sure I'm always at the top 7.5% in any role that I've had. But I'm not the only one that has achieved top results, top 10% results in my career. And so in addition to results, you kind of need to build relationships. And I think that's a really key piece that a lot of us and a lot of my colleagues don't do a good enough job of doing. I was fortunate to have multiple people mentor me. If you notice in my story, I never talked about applying for a job. They always came to me to say, hey, you should try this next. And that's because of relationships. So it's not just about having the results, but it's about building the right relationships and the right people knowing what you can do. That's vital as well. When you talk about relationships, you can go into mentorship, sponsorship. Those are kind of things I plan to talk about later as well. But I think that it's that combination of results plus relationships. That's the winning formula.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sam. Thank you. Any questions, thoughts, ideas? Do you disagree?
I have a question.
Sorry, Jamima, carry on.
Nice. I just wanted to ask if your current role right now was what you expected to do, like in high school or something, or if it was like a backup plan, or if it just kind of like happened and now you're like, yeah, I like it.
That's a very good question. I like that question a lot. So when I left high school, I actually immigrated here from Nigeria. I thought I was going to be an engineer. And I took the first 3 weeks of engineering classes and I'm like, I hate this. This is horrible. And so I changed course. And it's actually funny because I changed my minor to political science and I was taking an economics minor. But I love my minor so much that I made it my major. And so to be honest with you, you're gonna, especially when you're a teenager and in high school and things like that, and your early years of university, there's a bit of trial and error to find what you love, to find what you like. And I went through that process. My first 2 years of university, like I said, I left engineering in 3 weeks. And I tried to do political science, which I loved, but I loved economics more. And it was that push and pull. It took me a while to figure out what I was really good at. And that's a really good question. I think you got to figure out what you're really good at. And sometimes it takes failing first to figure out what you're good at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more question or thoughts or ideas? Okay. All right.
So I'm just going to talk about, again, my career. And I said I was going to spend a bit more time. I think I talked about results and why results are important. And so that's a metric that I'm always, regardless of the role I have, like the role I have right now, I think my team is number 4 in the country. There's 40 teams. So I'm in the top 10%. And I'm always thinking, how can I better that number? That's just something that'll stay with me in my career. I think when you do excellent work, when you're known for driving results and achieving results, I'm not saying that you don't face systemic racism, you do, but it gets a bit easier because people want results, especially in the business world, people want results. And so that's something that I always am focused on. But I'm going to spend more time talking about relationships because I think that's important. And I think it's important whether you're in high school, you're working. I have mentors today. I have positive relationships. I'm always going to have them. You always want to, I think there's a quote that says that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so that's something that's big. And so, mentorship is a formal or informal relationship with an advisor or a peer who acts as your role model. And so I have peers that I call for mentorship. It's actually one of the things that I did when I took this job is, I've never done this before. And I quickly called somebody in Ontario. And we're peers, we're on the same team, we're at the same level, but I phone him once a month saying, hey, how can I do this? What should I do with this? I think that's a really important piece is surrounding yourself with amazing mentors. I have mentors that are older than me as well, so that I don't have to make the same mistakes they make. Or when I have a bad day, I can go to somebody and say, hey, what do I do about this? Or how do I figure this out? So that's one big thing. The next level for mentorship is sponsorship. And so sponsorship is earned on an individual basis. You have to really know somebody. And a sponsor is usually somebody who is a senior colleague in the professional environment. And what they do is they guide you through high profile career changes. But those people also knock on the door and break down the door and say, you got to hire this person because they use their political capital for you on your behalf. And so I'll give you an example. In BMO, to become a VP, you need at least 2 senior vice presidents to give you a good, once you go through an interview process, you need 2 senior VPs to pretty much vouch for you that you can do the job, that they've worked with you and things like that. Those senior VPs don't do that except they know that you can do quality work. But that's a sponsor. That's somebody that can say, hey, I agree, we need to give this person the job. They can do the job. So that goes beyond just your ability. It goes to relationships. And so, you know, those are two distinct, unique things, and people don't always have that. I needed 2 at BMO to get this job. I fortunately had 4. But that's an important piece that we need to have, or else you can be the best person for the role. But if you don't have those people backing you up and using their political capital, you're just doing yourself harm. And so whatever stage of life, this is a very good forum and as an example to lean on people like Nketi, Dr. Rita, Ike, everybody else that's involved in this, because they've been down some of the road that you've been down, or they can find you somebody in their network that can say, hey, you know, I've seen that before, I've seen that problem, I know how to solve it, or this is the options. You choose what's best for you. That's a huge, huge piece in life that I still lean on to today. I'm going to pause just to see if anyone has any questions on maybe how do you get a mentor, how do you get a sponsor, XYZ. I'm just going to pause to see if anyone has any questions.
Sorry, I don't have my face here. This is Ashley. I'm just upstairs with the kids. So, but yeah, I have a quick question. I would just wonder, you briefly said that, you know, you have faced systemic racism, but you know, you've been able to overcome it and you've been able to, you know, build all these relationships, and it's been a big part of your success. So I don't know if you have any examples of anything that you have directly faced, or just kind of in general, how you've been able to overcome that.
No, thank you, Ashley. That's a great question, and I'm glad that you're on mom duty, but you're listening to this as well. I saw my mom ask last week. Actually, I hadn't seen her since December. Moms are superheroes. Thanks for everything that
Thank you. Yeah, I try my best.
For sure. That's a very good question. Honestly, I have faced several things, from some clients not wanting to work with me. I live in Alberta, and I think Nketi probably knows what that means, and some of you that live in Alberta. But I've worked in Fort Mac, I've worked in Leduc, just outside Edmonton. Sometimes there's clients that don't want to work with me, and to me, that's their loss. I think that maybe it's easier for me because I came here as an immigrant, and so the first 16 years of my life, I was judged on my merit. But if somebody doesn't see my value, that's a them problem, not a me problem. And I think that that's the attitude I always have: is my value is my value. I don't need somebody, whether it's a client, whether it's somebody at work, to recognize my value. My value is static in what I bring to the table. And I don't really, it's tough. It's easier said than done, but I don't really look externally for validation. So, you know, I've had employees say inappropriate things. I've had people not want to work with me. I've had to work twice as hard to achieve results, whatever, the whole gambit of systemic racism. I think the thing I always do is I always make sure that my personal life is rich and full. So when I go home, you know, if I had a bad day, I can phone my parents, or I can phone my friends. I always make sure that I have a good social network, and my sense of self-worth isn't at work. But the big thing about racism, especially now that I lead people, it's actually a damn problem. Like they're scared of something. They're scared of immigrants taking over their country. They're scared of people outworking them. That's a them problem. And my favorite thing that I always say is, don't make somebody else's problem your problem. I say that quite often. It's actually like my go-to motto. That's how I deal with racism. It's like, I'm not gonna make somebody else's bad day my bad day, somebody else's problem my problem. And I have full confidence in who I am and my results that I bring to the table. I hope that answers your question.
We have Jacob here. Jacob.
Sorry, I'm just rushing to unmute myself. Yes, thank you. Thanks for your answer. Sorry,
Ashley, I just spoke over you. And thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. We have Jacob. Jacob has his hand up. Do you want to ask a question, Jacob?
Yeah, I actually was just kind of wondering, what's the difference between maybe someone, like, what's the difference between racism and not wanting to work with someone, or someone else just kind of being a jerk? Like, where's the line between not liking someone and having a bad personality and racism and a hatred of another person's race? Like, where's the dividing line there?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I don't know that I can 100% answer it, but I think that there's situations that I've clearly faced in my professional career where people make explicit reference to my race. I think in those situations, I see it as racism, where explicit things, references are made in that way. If somebody says, I don't understand your accent, but they're not making, when people don't want to work with you for things like your accent or things like, or there's explicit comments about like, I've had people say, there was a time that I actually drove a coworker home and her neighbor was like, oh, there was a break-in and there was a black guy. Was that the guy that broke in? Like things like that explicitly are racism. There is more jerks where clients say, oh, I don't get along with that person. Maybe there's a racial element there, maybe there's not. That I think when there's an explicit mention of race or things like that, I term those things racism, but I have to say I'm not the expert.
And it's a really good question there, Jacob. I mean, Rita, maybe you might chime in, and Ike and Ashley and Carolyn. Oftentimes racism is not always easy to detect. Sometimes it's a feeling, and yeah, sometimes it's a feeling that you just get where you can see two people being treated completely different. And one of them is white, one of them is black, and they've done the exact same. And racism is also not hatred of your race. It could just be that you're just being judged, or you're being judged because of the color of your skin. You might not necessarily hate the other person, but you're just being judged because of your skin. So it doesn't necessarily mean hatred. But yeah, I'm open to other comments as well. Rita, Ashley, I think Carolyn's here as well.
There's a lot of
these chime in.
I'm gonna get to, I think Jemima was first, then Christiana, then back to Jacob. I'll just share a little bit, and I think maybe leave room for Rita as well. She's our expert here. But for me, growing up in Alberta as well, Saskatchewan and Alberta here, like there's a lot of experiences, especially at work, where it's beyond obvious. I remember, and for me, I think the advantage I had is maybe speaking French. Sometimes like the French speaking, like white people will come and tell you like what's actually going down. I remember I had a French manager who tell me at the movie theater, like, we judge your, we used to check like, like every time we throw away stuff, like there's like, I used to work at the movie, like they track your, I don't know, the cups and the thing. So I used to be the guy to do that inventory, and mine was always really good. And so every time they tell me it's not good enough, and it took like one of like the French people to come tell me in French, no, it's never gonna be good enough. They're doing this on purpose. I got passed up for like 3 promotions as well. And one of the persons who got the job above me, like couldn't even read. Like it was beyond, anything I could ever imagine. So those kind of things you'll see, and there'll always be some other kind of reason. I always used to be accused of sneaking people in or knowing some gangster that was coming in. You're like, no. So there are bad personalities, absolutely. And then there is just that kind of angle that you get and that you sense, that you feel like, okay, no, this is a different level. But I think what we'll do here, we'll give Jacob a chance to respond, and then we'll go to Jemima and Christiana. And if you have something to say, please message me or raise your hand. It's all good.
Yeah, yeah, it's just kind of a tricky thing then, I guess. Hey, kind of knowing, especially being a white kid from Airdrie, obviously I don't know much about this. It's kind of an eye-opener experience. So yeah, it's an interesting insight for sure.
Can I say something quickly? Do you mind?
No.
Yeah.
It's your floor.
Jacob, one thing I'm gonna say, because I think that the fact that you're in this forum and things like that, I think you're trying to be an ally, and that's a great question. I'm going to go back to the thing I was just talking about right now, which is relationships. So I think if you work with a person of color and something looks off, it probably is off. And I think that if you have a good relationship with the person, you might be able to talk to the person or speak up. I think allies do speak up when they see that something is wrong. I think I have white friends, so to speak, to be plain, that reach out to me to say, hey, how can I say this right? How can I do this right? Because there's that level of trust. And so I think if you try hard and you care, which it seems like you do, I think you'll be fine. But if something looks off, I think talking to people, reading on the relationships you have, I think that would help you a lot.
Good. Let's go Jamima, I think I said.
Okay, so I don't really know how I'm gonna word this, so bear with me. But basically, like, this is going back to like when you said that you had like 4 people vouch for you so that you can upgrade and everything like that. I know that like I'm a very closed off person right now, especially like for my part-time job. I go to work, I do my job, and that's it. And I don't really think about building relationships and talking to people. Like, that's just not me, because I just don't like talking to people, and I'm just really closed off and stuff. But I've had like managers come up to me and be like, oh yeah, like, you know what you're doing, like, because it's a call center, and so they can listen to your calls and stuff like that. And I've had managers tell me like, oh yeah, you know what you're doing, you learn really fast, things like that. So I guess for like my part-time job now, it doesn't really matter, but career-wise, I guess my question is like, is doing your job well good enough for you to get those vouchers and get people to like talk highly of you, or do you have to like actually build those relationships, and it can't be a matter of, oh, I'm gonna go to work and make my money and then go home, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think this is a different topic. So do I answer this question, or do you want to circle back to what you want?
I think maybe let's hear Christiana's question as well, and then we'll let you answer both of them how you want, and then we'll give Rita the floor here, Dr. Yama the floor, and she can.
Triple D.
Yeah.
Okay, my question was a bit similar, but it was more along the lines of, I want to ask you, like, what is your strategy on developing these relationships to be able to move up the ranks the way you did? Is it just a matter of like going to every work function, or is it like even seeing these people in your private life? Like, how do you actually nurture these relationships to be so close and that people vouch for you?
Sure, thanks. The questions are really similar, so I'll try to answer them. I think the first one is, can you just go to work, do you do a good job, and then have people vouch for you? I don't think so. I think just going to work and doing your job is the bare minimum. That's my opinion. I think it doesn't show that you're invested in the company. I always tell my staff, I said, the bank has commitments to you, but you also have commitments to the bank. And I think sometimes it's that taking that step to go above and beyond. I think it's important. And I think like it's a part-time job right now, Jamima, but it's a sales role, and that's really important too, because a lot of businesses, a lot of stuff is sales, and so building your resume from a young age with sales experience is important, and having people vouch for you, I think, is important too when it comes time to get that professional, real job. And so you already have people giving you good feedback, saying to you like, "Hey, you're doing a good job." I think sometimes you can go to them because and now I'm answering your question about how do you build these relationships. And what I did was, when somebody gave me feedback saying you're doing a good job, I always say, hey, tell me how I can be better. Tell me how I can be better. Tell me what I'm missing. Like, I know I do a good enough job, but how can I get better? There's always something to be better at. And I think the more you have those conversations, the more you build on it, the more they tell you how to be better. If they tell you, hey, you're making 10 calls a week, you can be better by making 12. When you get to the position where you're making 12, you go back to them to say, hey, I'm making 12. And that's how you build relationship, is showing that the feedback they give you, you're not wasting their time, things like that. I never really built, I don't want to say never, I have eventually built relationships personally. It always was professional. There's 1 or 2 people that I now have personal relationships with, but I always kept it professional. And it was always about, tell me how I can do more. Tell me how I can contribute more. Or sometimes I always say, like, tell me how you got to where you are. People like to talk about themselves. You do that 2-3 times, and then the person starts to take an interest in you, and eventually you can say, then they become an informal mentor, or you formalize it and say, hey, would you formally want to be my mentor? But that's how you can build those relationships of mentorship. Hopefully I answered both questions.
Good stuff. We'll go to She doesn't want to be called doctor. We'll go to Rita and Carol next. I think, yeah, we'll do that. So you guys just go back to back, and then we'll give Sam the floor again after that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll just try to create some buzz in the chat. But then again, like I've always been Rita. I don't know what's happened today. Anyway, no, but I just wanted to go back to the question that Jacob posed. And I was liking everything that was being said. But I'm thinking about that fine line that Jacob was talking about, and Sam, you alluded to it too. And in my mind, how to differentiate that a person is being a jerk or that they are being racist is to look for a pattern. You know, if they're a jerk, it's just, you know, they did it once and you can just brush it off your shoulder. But then if it's similar circumstances and it becomes a pattern and your feeler is out for it, trust your intuition, because most of the time, your intuition is correct. You are just looking for that pattern of behavior. And you unpack that pattern of behavior and go, wait a minute, this goes beyond this person just being a jerk or just disliking me. There is an undertow that is pushing what it is they are saying. So at a certain level, everybody is a jerk. But when you meet people you intuitively like, you don't, you know, go to certain extents. If you meet a person, even in your subconscious, we've been talking about, you know, unconscious bias. If you meet a person you subconsciously do not like and you are a jerk, then the things that you do not like about them are the ones that are going to drive the things that you do. So for the person that is receiving it, you can unpack it and go, oh, I feel like this is something more. But yeah, it is difficult to then come out and accuse them or say what it is you have perceived, because it's not explicit, like Sam, you were saying earlier. It's the subtle ones that are hard to tell. So to me, my barometer has always been, is this a pattern of behavior? I don't want to go on, but I actually had an occasion to call out someone who was working actually a rung above me. And the only reason I was able to do that was because there was an initial meeting where the sense I got was that you were not up to snuff to be doing this kind of thing. And then over a 6-month period, I just watched what was going on. And when I felt like I had enough, I went forward. So that is the way in which you can approach these things and try to like pass out when it's just a one-off or somebody is just being silly. And when yourself, you can tell, come on, this is beyond somebody being ridiculous. At that point, you have a dossier of incidents that you can actually use to back up whatever it is you are saying. And it will be hard pressed for someone who is impartial, who will not listen to you. Jacob, I hope that really helps you with trying to figure out when a person is just being silly and when really there is something deeper going on. And Sam, it's good to meet you finally. I'm so sorry for my running my rat race. I'll make it up to you somehow.
So good. So nice to meet you. And that was amazing. Like your answer was amazing.
Carolyn?
Okay, I was just going to say, Jemima, you had made a comment when you were talking, and that just I flagged it to speak on it. And there's something you had said, oh, you know, at your work now, it doesn't really matter because it's just at the call center, or, you know, something about building relationships is you never know where you'll meet people in life. So just to caution against going, well, it's just my little part-time job, which is nothing right now, because you never know where else you'll meet people in life, where you'll need references, right? Because once you start your real job, you're going to need references, and so it's important to start to build those relationships even now, and to start working on it even now in your little job. You know, you might see it as little, but that's the job that you have right now. And just I would really caution everyone to just be watchful, to not take for granted the people that you know right now, because you have no idea where life will take you and when you might possibly meet them again.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah,
And it's
that makes a lot.
And Jemima, it's also good practice. If you're not used to doing something, you're not going to say, oh, when I start my dream job, I'm going to start. So it's good practice for you to start doing it now, and you can start building the tips and the tricks, and, you know, and develop sort of like the fortitude to keep going, because you may have a few knockbacks, you may have a few no. So it's good for you to actually start building that right now, so that when you do get the job that you want, you have the skills and the tools for you to soar.
Yeah, I
and
think
Kachi,
the
if I may
reason
just
I
jump in,
kinda,
there was something. Oh, sorry, somebody else was speaking. Caroline, go ahead.
No, Jemima was speaking.
no, you
Okay,
could go
Jemima, go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, you can finish. I'll just
No, you finish
recapitulate.
first.
Okay. Okay. No, I was just gonna say that I guess the reason why I kind of have that mindset is like because I don't know, like before this job, I worked at like a clothing store, like retail, right? And at that job, I was really close to my manager, but it turned like really toxic, kind of. Like it was a really bad experience. We got like too close. Like it was like she kind of like reached a bound, like how do you say it? Like went over a boundary, whatever. So yeah, it got really bad. So after that, I was kind of just like, oh, like it's just a clothing store. Like it's not gonna, I don't know how like that makes sense in my head, but I guess like that experience kind of made me like think like, oh, it's just a little clothing store. Like it really doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. But that definitely does make sense. Like obviously I'm not just gonna get my dream job and be like, oh, okay, it's now time to like, no. But that is something that like I have to work on because like I said, just in general, like I'm a really shy and like closed off person, and I like it's hard for me to just like go out and talk to people. But yeah, so that is something that I know that I have to work on.
Rita.
Yeah. I'll just take like 1 minute just to reiterate something that Sam said. Sam, you said very wonderful things today, and you haven't even begun your presentation. But for all of our youth participants and anybody looking for a job, there is one thing that Sam said that really resonates with me, and it's partially my story. And it is, notice I did not say I applied for a job. That is so significant. We kind of underestimate the power of what Sam has said with that. Many of the people that end up in good positions, even right after school and they got a job, it was not because they applied for the job. They were head-hunted for the job. For those in like high school who haven't heard of the term before, write down that word, head-hunted, and figure out what it means. Very quickly, you are specifically sought for the thing that somebody is looking to do. And that is how people get jobs around here. Right out of university, people already know what you can bring to the table. Yes, it is the immigrant story of I sent out 50 applications and no one called me back. That is because our formula is wrong. It is the headhunting that really helps us. It's the relationships we have that really helps us. So even if you don't listen to anything else that Sam says today, to me personally, that is a very powerful revelation that you don't want to brush off your shoulder and go, I'm waiting for the presentation. Wait for those relationships to get you the job. That's what I was going to say.
High five, Rita. Rita, I said high five. No, do you remember the 80-20 rule in my presentation when I said only 20% of the jobs out there are actually advertised, and we're spending 100% of our time to apply for 20% of the jobs. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thank you, Rita. That was very kind. I think it's true though. Like this system works on relationships. I think they call it networking. Even when I hire people today, I hire the people that have kept in touch with me for 6 months, 9 months. When you're giving somebody a job that pays $90,000, $100,000 a year, you want to know a track record of them. You want to know that they're who they say they are. I don't interview people the day I post the job thinking, oh my God, is this a good person? Is their resume great? I look at the people that have kept in touch with me for 6 months because they really want the job. And they've told me about the updates and how they're developing themselves to get the job. And so that's a really, like even now as someone that hires people as well, that's something that's really important as well. You know, I was going to talk about business, registering your business and stuff, but I think like it's a bit of university students in high school. So I'm going to talk about just generally tips in life that I think work, that have helped me, and habits and attitudes that you should have, especially, you know, based on Jemima's story about where she works and things like that. I'll tell you what I think works. And then if there's time left over, I can talk about businesses quickly and how you can be good at banking or whatever. But I think that the general tips that have always helped me, number one, is to work hard. I just think, you always have results are table stakes in whatever you're doing. The first thing I say is, how am I measured? And so I'm going to use Jemima's example of the call center. If the average person makes 10 calls a week, I want to be making 12, 13. I want to always, I guess, judge myself or peer myself against the very best. People want to hire people that are really good. There's racism, there's systemic racism, but businesses should ultimately want results. And so, working hard, also knowing how am I judged in life, in whatever it is, even if you're in a relationship, how does my spouse, what brings happiness to my spouse, what brings happiness to my friends, that kind of thing. That's important, is hard work. Another thing is focus. Like, to me, there's lots of distractions, there's lots of parties that I didn't get a chance to attend. There's lots of friends that I couldn't hang out with. There's lots of basketball games I don't watch. To be truly, truly great at whatever you do, to be truly, truly exceptional, it's going to cost you something. Whether it's basketball, the basketball players, sometimes they have a big game and their wife is giving birth and it's like, have to jump on the private plane and I barely made it to the birth, or I missed whatever it is, whether it's a game, whether it's real life, you have to be willing to lose something or lose distractions to get the things that you really want. And so that's something that's fun. That's something that helps as well. Another big thing is just so in terms of that is delayed gratification / building the right habits. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of leadership podcasts on relationship. I'm always looking to build habits. I'm always looking to get better. And in this day and age of the internet, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I couldn't just pick up my phone and listen to a podcast of what the smartest people in the world are saying. Today, there is all kinds of podcasts, all kinds of stuff on my phone. And so I'm taking walks, I'm listening to a podcast, I'm cleaning my place, I'm listening to a podcast. There's so much information out there. There's no reason why anybody shouldn't truly be great. And so that's something I'll talk about. That's something as well that in life, generally speaking, has helped me. I think building strong relationships is important. Actually, similar to Jemima, I'm an introvert. I don't have that many friends, but I always try to build the right relationship, right? Katie and I now are friends, and so it's something that I've benefited from a lot because she knows a lot of stuff in academia and things like that. But building, and I'm sure that I help her in ways that she probably doesn't have contacts in as well. But it's being thoughtful about the relationships you're building and about the value that it's adding to you. The one thing you can't get back is time. And so making sure you invest in the right relationships is important. I just have two more things. The next one is integrity. I think as much as we don't always, you have a reputation, good or bad, everybody has a reputation, and you kind of get known for something. And so, there's banks that I've only worked for one bank, but I always get people reaching out to me, headhunters again, saying, hey, do you want to work for us? And it's because somebody has worked at BMO before. They've left BMO and they're like, you got to hire that guy for X, Y, Z reason. But integrity matters, whether you're working at whatever you're doing, people knowing you for certain things. Like, what are you known for? I've been in my job now, I think 8 months, 9 months. And the word in Toronto, where the head of Bank for Canada, the word in Toronto is Sam is a go-getter, Sam gets results. That's what I'm known for. What are you known for in your class? What are you known for in your job? Integrity, being known for honesty, those types of things, they may not seem very important, but people are taking notes. People know. I remember I had to speak to my MBA, the current MBA class, the class of 2021. And the guy who introduced me in that chat was my classmate from 2014. And just the stories he shared about me and who I was, it's integrity. I didn't even know he was watching. We were classmates. We weren't particularly friends at the time, but people are always watching. You're always known for something. You want to be known for good things. The last thing I would say is pay it forward. To me, true happiness in whatever you do is paying it forward. So you might be 18 in high school, but there is somebody that is 14, 15 that you can mentor. There's somebody that is 20 that you can do something kind for. You know, one of the things that brought me joy when the pandemic first started was going to the food bank and delivering food to older people's homes who were too scared to venture out because of the pandemic. But how I think true joy, true legacy, true happiness is what you contribute to society. And so it's different for all of us. Like I'm a VP at BMO, so I can tell the bank, hey, we're not using this 80 laptops. Let's donate it to United Way. And I'm gonna get a lot of press for that, right? But in your case, it could be where you volunteer, where you whatever, but we can all change the world in one way or the other. And I think that's true happiness. I'm just gonna pause to see if anyone has any questions or anything like that. But generally speaking, those are my guiding principles of what's helped me become a good human being. That's what's helped me.
I think a good question. Rita just put it there in the chat. What do you want to be known for? So if you don't have any questions, that's fine. But I'd like to hear everyone's response to what do you want to be known for?
Basketball.
Okay. What about basketball? You own a basketball?
That I like basketball, and that I'm hopefully pretty good at basketball, and that they want me on their team because I'm good at basketball.
Okay. All right. Nice one, Jacob. Okay. Who else? What do you want to be known for?
Let's get Laurent involved. We haven't heard much from you. Laurent, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm just like taking in, like learning everything. So I didn't ask any questions, but it's cool to like learn about like from everyone's opinion and how like applying for a job and how you know, racism, like what you like, you know, you know what I mean? Like it. Sorry I didn't talk that much, but I was just like, you know, taking in about what everyone's talking about. So yeah.
No, good. I'm gonna pick on the boys a little bit because the girls.
I've not heard from the Kenzo clan.
Oh, Kenzo clan, we talk too much, man.
I've not heard anything from them today. Just
me. Let's go, Junior. Junior, do you have any thoughts or any direct questions? Junior, are you there? Okay, maybe not. 1, 2. All right, we'll go to Kenzo clan then. Tutu.
Yeah, I've been taking things in now. I think something that's good to be known for is someone who gets things done. So no matter what job, someone that no matter what you ask them to do, even if it's not their strong point, they'll do the best in their capabilities to do it.
I actually really like that one because this is what I say. Like I tell people that like as long as there's effort, I can live with that. You know, where people like as a people manager, where I go crazy is where there's no effort. And I'm like, okay, you're not even trying. So I really like that one. That's great. I like the basketball one too. That's great too.
Okay, I see we have iPhone who joined us here. Is that Cristiano? I know Raisa changed her name already.
Who's iPhone? What about Cristiano? I'm interested to learn what do you want to be known for?
I guess I would say I like to be known for maybe not just results, but also uniqueness. Like if you have that special touch and you can do things that no one else can, I think it's also pretty powerful in its own way, like being indispensable and like being that one of a kind kind of individual.
One more.
How many more answers? Should we go two more?
Okay.
Ike, if you don't mind, when we have finished having the 2 more, I just had one thing to add. just to kind of answer my own question or bring a little bit more dimension.
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out at the end there. Just to answer.
Oh, I'm just saying, I just wanted to add a little bit more like detail to the reason I posed the question or kind of picked it off of Sam. So once we have heard from the youth with the question, and then I can just add what I just was thinking about when I posed the question. Perfect.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. So let's go. Benita, are you there? We'll get an answer from Benita, and then Jolie's with us. So we'll go that way.
I like to be known as for I think I'm a decent cooker. I like to cook when I'm not doing anything. That helps. Yeah.
And career-wise, in your career, what would you like to be known for there?
Helping people, because I want to get into social work, or I'm law or something, but I don't know yet. Those two things. So, yeah.
All right, cool. Julie?
I would like to be known as like someone who has who is accountable and who has a good work ethic. And I would also like to be like known as like someone who's like very caring and empathetic with others.
Excellent. And before you take it away, Rita, I'd just like to welcome Felicia Cristiano et Papa Daniel qui est maintenant là avec nous. So we do have French and English, Sam, for those who are mostly French. So I'd like to know Daniel, c'est un vrai papa là, so he's with us. So félicitations, bienvenue. Like he had a child recently, so that's why.
Merci beaucoup, merci.
All right, he's always good. All right, Rita, take it away.
Yeah, so what I was just wanting for us to reflect on whilst we are thinking about that question is to think about something that is beyond superficial, something deep that reflects your personality. So like, you know, Jacob, you were saying, I want to be known for basketball, and Nketi like chimed in, like, why? That signal to me, yes, it's good to be known for basketball, but then to what point? What is the larger, bigger thing here we are looking at? So it is not, it's okay to be known for basketball, but what about it is the deeper question that you are looking for, which is why when Jolie was talking, like, I want to be known for my work ethic. Christiana, you were saying that you want to be known for, oh Lord, I just lost my thought train here, your uniqueness. To me, those are the deeper things that you want to be known for. You are a fast runner, fine, everywhere. There are many people that can run fast, but beyond that, what else? So when you are reflecting on this question and what Sam is talking about, look for something that is beyond level 1 conversation, go to level 2, go to level 3. And if I may, I don't know who it was talking about being indispensable. I mean, that is so deep. I mean, I know some people go like, maybe I'm being arrogant when you say that, but really it speaks to a certain quality. And that is what you want to be known for, a certain quality. And so I just wanted to add that so that when you are thinking about, you know, what you want to be known for, you are reaching deeper into yourself and living that out so that the rest of us can see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So I think, yeah, over to you, Sam, again.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. You know, I think I myself have learned a lot today because I've never thought about like, what do I want to be known for? But I think, you know, as everyone was talking, I think empathy is one. I heard somebody say empathy. That's something that I really want to be known for. I want to be known that I had empathy enough, I cared enough that I gave back and I put myself in other people's shoes. But I've actually learned so much today, like from being here as well. So I just wanted to say that and stuff. But thank you guys for having me. And I think one more thing I'm going to say before I move on from this topic and move into like studying the business and things like that is, and also I hope I'm not stepping on the conversations that have happened previously, but I think like, you know, a lot of people are worried about racism. A lot of people are worried about that. And I think I try my best. I think you get depressed if that's your focus. And I think that's why it's important what Rita is saying, that what do you want to be known for? When racism happens, whether it's systemic or it's what somebody else does, you can't control anybody else's behavior. You can only control your behavior. And I think the reason why it's important to keep Rita's question in mind of what do you want to be known for, and internalizing that is it puts the onus on you. What can I control? What's on me to do? I think if you put in the work and you control what you can control, that's important. I'm not saying we shouldn't have the conversation of racism. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to hope and make our society better. But truly, some of the ways that I've been able to push through the challenging situations I've had is by focusing on myself. What can I improve? What can I work on? And also by not making somebody else's problem my problem. I just wanted to say that quickly. I think I'm going to move over now to like the business side of things, and hopefully this part is useful to everyone. If you want to start a business, I think the general thing is, just start. You have to have a sound business idea, but I think that a lot of people overthink things and a lot of people underestimate themselves. And I think a big thing when you think about a business is, you got to just start anyway, start small. There's a brand called Canada Goose, and they started in Toronto, I think 14, 15 years ago. They were actually a BMO client that needed $100,000 at the time. And now they're like this $1 million company, millions and millions of dollars that are well known, but they just started. And one day, I think it was Prime Minister, I don't remember his name right now, but the Prime Minister that lives in Calgary, the ex-Prime Minister, Harper, wore their brand and it just took off. But it's because they started and they stuck to the plan. So the big thing is if you're thinking about anything, just start. One of the things that banks look at when one of the things I advise you to do is test your ideas. So if you want to have a school of basketball as an example, because you love basketball so much and you want to just share your knowledge of basketball to people, go to a school where there's students and say, hey, test your knowledge. If you had a coach that had you pay XYZ amount and there was a dedicated school, would you go to that school of basketball? Whatever your idea was, you got to test it. You got to try to see if there's demand for that stuff. And then once you test your idea and you think your idea is reasonable, it's about formalizing that idea into a business plan. There's so many templates available online. There's business analysts that you can pay. Just in general, Ketty writes the best presentations that I've seen in my life. I'm sure you can go to her if you need something about a business plan. But there's so many templates. Like I said, there's no better time to be successful than now. There's things like Futurepreneur, BDC and RBC do that, where they help people that want to be future entrepreneurs. So if that's something that it's on your mind, you can go there and look at the tools that they have in Futurepreneur and how they try to help support people based on location. There's also Innovation Canada that gives grants and things like that. Those are things that you can try to access yourself as well. Once you get through all of this process and you're ready to start a business, it's important to register your business, provincially, federally, making sure that all your you register your business for GST, HST, PST, all that stuff. Sometimes what kills us as people of color or Black people is we don't keep the best records, right? No bank is going to give you a loan. No bank is going to support you if you don't have the records, if you don't show what your income is, what your expenses are, X, Y, Z, that you pay taxes. Those are important things that as a business owner as well. What's your competitive advantage? You should be able to speak to all of these things. And sometimes too, like going back to relation. And Katie, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, Sam. I was just going to say, can you just tell us what competitive advantage is?
Oh yeah, like what makes you unique, right? And I think some of this too goes back to like, I don't remember exactly how Rita phrased the question, but like, what do you want to be known for? Why are you you? And I think competitive advantage in business is, why is your business existing? Why is your business your business? And so that's what competitive advantage is in layman's terms, so to speak. And so, keeping excellent records, being able to speak confidently to what you do, why you do it, ensuring that the tax man is happy and everything is well documented, that's something I think that hurts our community a lot. I'm actually part of the Black Entrepreneurship Loan Fund kicked off, I think, on May 31st. The banks are going to join in 2 or 3 weeks. But for BMO, I'm part of the national committee that was coming up with ways that we could develop this loan and disperse the loan and help Black entrepreneurs. And to be honest, and I'm being fair because I'm Black and I'm being fair to white people, you know, sometimes we don't do our due diligence of having the right documents. Like no bank, by law, the banks are governed by OSFI, and by law, we just have to get your credit score. We have to get your financial state. We can't just give money to give money. And so I think that that's something that's hurt our community in the past. I really hope that things like the BARC entrepreneurship loan that are coming out help people, but you gotta have a net worth. You have to have good credit. You know, when banks think of loans and giving you loans, they think of, can you repay back? They think about, can you give any security? So if you can't repay back the loan, can the bank sell something that you gave as security? It's actually funny because before this job I was in our risk team. And when loans go bad, like business loans, you know, we'd sell the business property or whatever. That was my job making those decisions. So I think this is a bigger conversation than today, but it's something that you all need to focus on if you ever want to be a business owner is, you know, what do I bring to the table? Do I have security? Do I have good credit? What is my net worth like? So your net worth is your assets minus liabilities. Just having those good habits are very important, because I think it's not a lack of, there's systemic issues, but there's something called the Canadian Small Business Financing Program, CSBFA. That loan has been there since probably 1991. It's a government guaranteed loan. So if somebody doesn't have a net worth, the government guarantees your business. If it's a good business and you have a good business plan and XYZ, and that loan, I've never seen any discrimination in that loan. The discrimination is where your credit score is bad, or you don't have a good business plan, or you can't show that you told them that you've opened your business 4 years ago, but you can't tell what your revenue was last year. And that's where we need to step up as well. I'm just going to pause to see if anyone has any questions. Okay, from a credit perspective, it's whatever age. It's just about things like paying your bills on time. It's how long you've had credits. That's what they look at. It's also having different types of credit. There's revolving credit, like a credit card, where if you pay down, you can use the money again. And then there's installment loans where you buy a car, for example, they give you a $10,000 loan. You make $100 payments every month and the balance reduces. It's having that combination that makes the banks know that, okay, this person knows how to use credit. They know how the banking system works and things like that. You know, a typically good credit score is anywhere from 660 and higher. If you're around that 700 number, as long as you're not over leveraged, so as long as you don't have high debts, you should be fine. You know, one of the reasons I like banking is that there's a lot of merit. Banks actually want to do loans, we want to do business, but the banks have to trust people. And that's why keeping records, right? Having strong records. I always say, if anybody wants to be a business owner, you got to know a good lawyer, you got to know a good accountant that helps you with your numbers, and you have to have a good banker. Generally speaking, in everything that I've spoken about today, whether I was speaking about my career, whether I was speaking about life in general, whether I was speaking about banking and being a business owner, a very common thread is building relationships, right? So I've seen some business owners build strategic alliances. So somebody is a carpenter, but they get into an alliance with a plumber. And so if this person wins a contract, he brings in his buddy, and that way both people win. If this other person wins a contract, I cannot overstate enough the importance of relationships, because in every single thing I've tried to touch on today, relationships is the common thread. I think like that's it for me. This was the portion of the conversation where I just wanted to answer questions on anything, and it doesn't have to be on the things that I talked about. I'm open to answering any questions.
Okay. Any questions? So I would like to, okay, Rita.
Actually, I don't have a question. I just wanted to pick on something that Sam said earlier, and it's actually from the conclusion of last class, where I was making a point for those who are still on the call that there are some things that we don't know, that when we are looking to get something from the broader society, because we have not put ourselves in good stead, we get turned down or we get a short shrift. And then our default becomes, well, that is because I'm a Black person. And to me, I'm saying I'm a Black person, but it's not everything that is racism. Really, some things are just cut and dry. These are the rules, we apply them. True, we want to do something about the systems and take them down and all of that, I get it. But then sometimes you see a story going, and that's racism, and that's racism. And when you get into the meat of it, you realize that actually there was really nothing over here. So I just wanted to make that connection from the personal piece we talked about last class, what you learned there, and what Sam is talking about here regarding keeping your records and making sure that all the things that you need to have, you do have, so that when you do walk through the door, fault cannot be found with you. It's so important that we know what strengths we have instead of always looking at what we don't have. And I think that is one of the points that I really like from what Sam is saying over here. Be prepared to succeed.
You know, just a few seconds before you said be prepared, I was writing preparation. Preparation, absolutely. You have to do your due diligence. And it's not just with, let's say, even getting a loan, you know what I mean, or getting capital or financing for business, but in general. Let that be the way we operate, in that we have to do our due diligence so that we don't get turned down because we weren't able to do A, B, and C, or we weren't successful in A, B, and C. And so I think that's it. Due diligence, preparation. That's another thing that I took from your presentation, Sam. Preparation. Yeah.
I have a couple questions. Might be long. First thing I have to say, if you see me touching my arm, I got my vaccine. Thing hurts. I already called my mom though, so don't worry. My mom.
Oh,
I just wanted to say a few things here. Here as a group, I wanted to know if you could speak on just how we can leverage relationships in our communities, perhaps a bit more. We hear stories about different groups starting different initiatives to kind of make money, support themselves. There's something that we don't typically do well in our community. It's like there's an emergency and then people kind of have to gather money, pitch in, that kind of thing. There's also schemes in the community, like people say, oh, give us $500, you know, we'll all hold our $500 in an account and do, like, wondering if those kind of plans from your kind of standpoint make sense. Those kind of things we might hear about make sense. And then the second part to that, this group, we actually started out, we were doing some strategic planning, just trying to think about how to organize our community. And one of the things that came up is just developing social enterprises and starting in thinking about those tool, or not a tool, but I don't know, structure, I don't know, setting up something there to work for the community and to also bring in some revenue. So I was wondering if you could speak to ways we could connect with banks or tools banks have to help support these kind of initiatives, and just general advice from your position, just, you know, knowing what helps, what doesn't work, those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. You know, I think like, and I don't know if my position is the right one, but Kitty and I have kind of talked about this before, but I'll start with your first question about schemes like $500 raising money. I think without having more information, you know, I can't really speak more to that. I think if somebody's saying, bring $500, I'll give you 1,000. If something is too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. If it's something where people are pulling resources together to build something, you know, I can understand that. As a person, personally, especially because I've worked in, it's something called turnaround and restructuring. I've worked in restructuring. when it comes to doing business with people, I think the important thing is trust. And I think it's knowing who you're going into business with, because when things go sideways, people lose money, people fight, relationships get hurt. And so money is a big thing to be careful about generally. I think I can say those things generally speaking. With respect to like organizations, and Ketty and I actually talk about this quite a bit. I think we have enough organizations. Like there's the Calgary Black Chamber, there's BNI, there's this and that. I think that one organization just I think we all need to know what each organization is really good at, what each organization specializes in, and then we can apply for fundings from banks or apply for fundings from wherever the case may be. These things exist. But if I was going to go to my bank as an example and say, hey, donate $100,000 to XYZ, I have to be able to show the impact, and I have to show why us. Like, why wouldn't BMO, as an example, donate to United Way? Why would they donate to this group as an example? And so I think it's not a lack of groups. I think that people just need to specialize in things, and people also need to collaborate. Now, don't get me wrong, if you have a really unique idea and you have something that nobody's doing right now, or nobody's doing really well, there's room for more groups. I just think that it's something that Kitty and I talk about all the time. How can we leverage the groups we have and make sure that they're exceptional groups? That's something that I think we can do a better job of.
I think Rita has a question. Did Sam answer your question there? Okay. So Rita says, what advice, Sam, do you have for Black people making business alliances that do not fail? Anything from your experience to help us with?
So say that again.
So what advice would you have for people who are, Black people making business alliances so they don't fail? Am I correct, Rita? Is that the question? And then from your experience, so anything from your experience to help us with that?
Yeah, I think that when I try to figure out how to make alliances or where I want to make alliances, the first thing I think about is trust. Is this person in my circle? Have I seen the quality of their work? Things like that. I look at that kind of thing. Or were they recommended by somebody that I trust? So that's a big thing, because when I go back to integrity, you don't want to make an alliance that then ruins your name. So, the advice would be trust. The second thing is I always look at who are the people that are best at their fields. So if let's say, I'm going to use my career as an example. Before I became a VP, the very best VPs that I knew, I sat with them and said, hey, tell me what worked for you. What did you do? Or I just watched their style. Like these days we can watch people as well. And so before you get into an alliance, watching people from afar, watching the decisions they make, seeing what they're really best at something, seeing what they do, seeing the habits they form. I think that that's a good thing that can help you, because you can also go to them and say, hey, I've watched you. I know that you're excellent. And I know that these are the values you imbibe to maintain excellence. I also have these same values. Our values align. Let's form an alliance. I think that's how that helps too.
Yeah.
If I may just add a little, ask maybe for a little bit of clarification. So the reason I actually posed my question is that I think maybe from my Econ 101 class many years ago, there is a perennial problem with us, starting businesses. So yes, we'll have all of the good intentions. We start as a group of 2 or 3, and we don't end up with an Apple, and we don't have an Amazon. And that is really what is driving my question. So I'm just wondering, in your practice, you have seen maybe 2 or 3 Black people come together, start a business idea, and then you watch it kind of crumble under your very eyes, and you're just wondering, these are the things that they should not have done. That's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think it comes back to this trust thing. And I think sometimes too in our community, we don't really we're not always business-minded, right? Like if I got into a business with Nketi tomorrow, I love her, but I'm gonna draw up a legal plan to say, hey, if this doesn't work, this is how I can buy Nketi's share out. This is how Nketi can buy me out. Going in, you don't go in blind. It's a business, it's not a friendship. And I think sometimes we treat businesses like friendships, we treat it like a joke. And also, I don't think we always go after when somebody gets to $100 million company, right? Like it's nice. You get the nice things of life. You buy the Lambo, Lamborghini, you live in the nice houses and stuff. But I think people start to forget that it is still a business. And I think that can hurt as well. So I think it's that constant quest of being better that sometimes gets us. We get to a certain level and like, oh my God, I'm this, or my business is this. And then naturally we relax. That hurts sometimes. But sometimes too, it's not going, sometimes you gotta go in with the end in mind. Like, okay, if this was going to end tomorrow, yeah, that's something I think about that all the time. Like, okay, how can we get out of this? So that if we have a successful business, but we're just fighting, I can buy that other person out. And when you're fighting, it's hard to come to an agreement of me wanting to buy somebody else. But if the rules are in place before you get into business, the rules are set, you just go to court to enforce them, and everybody knows what the rules are. It's easier that way to keep the legacy going.
Agreed. And you know what? Sorry to add to Rita's point that I nearly got into a business with a friend, and her reluctance to have a legal agreement showed me that this is not the person I want to be in business with. And so not only did the business collapse, but the friendship suffered as a result as well. It's like, okay, good, wonderful. I'd rather know now than 5 years down the line. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Carolyn, thank you.
All right, Sam. So you've pivoted in your in the spaces that you've worked multiple times. So what would you give advice for someone who's either pivoting or, like a lot of our youth will be graduating and going into a completely new space of work? What are 5 practical steps that you would do in your new space to propel you forward?
Yeah, I really, really like that question. And the first thing I'm going to say, I'm going to be transparent. You got to embrace the change. Like, it's hard. Every time I've thought about making a change, whether it's graduating from high school or it's changing jobs so often, I think my lifespan, people joke around that my life shelf with any role is 18 months. But it's not fun. Like you when you get to 18 months, you're just getting good at what you're doing. And then the bank is like, hey, you have better talents. We want to move you on. And so it's fun, but it's also hard, I have to say. So embrace that. Change is hard. Embrace the change. Secondly, I would say be as prepared as you can. So whenever I'm getting to a point where I think I'm going to change things, so if I was an example of graduating high school, I start to consider my options. Do I want to go to university? Do I want to take a gap year? And then I consider I try to have 2 or 3 options, because as we always know, life doesn't go the way you plan. You always have to be ready for setbacks. You always have to be ready for things to go wrong. And it doesn't matter if you're black, brown, yellow, whatever skin color you are, life just kicks you in the teeth. So having plan Bs and Cs is great. The third thing I always do is I always say, who has been in the position that I'm in before, right? So if somebody has graduated from high school and I'm about to graduate, I try to talk to 2 or 3 people that I trust or that I like their path, and I just try to say, hey, I try to get advice. It's again part of relationship, mentorship, but that's a big part of what I do is, I haven't been down this road before, somebody else has. How can I learn from them and the experience? I get different options, and then I analyze those options. And so that's the 4th thing. I analyze, okay, this person said this person said that. I'm more educated and I'm more informed about what I'm getting into. So it makes me prepared a bit more. And the last thing is I have fun. Whenever I try something new, there's days that I work 18 hours because I don't know what I'm doing. There's days that I cry. I not literally cry, but I feel like crying because it's hard. But when you start with something new, it's difficult. But because I'm as prepared, which was step 4, I try to stay the course because I was prepared. I had an idea it wouldn't be easy, but I try to have fun with it. Sometimes I laugh at myself, like, oh my God, I have no clue how to, like when I made my first hire, what do I do? But I laugh at myself, and then I remember it's supposed to be hard. I have fun with it and move on.
Thank you. Sir. Oh, Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. I think Jacob has his hand up. Jacob.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you had any tips for not necessarily owning your own business, but just kind of, I don't know, tips to make like the basketball team just off the top of my head, or tips to kind of impress, scouts or anything, like kind of more so in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things. That's why I had that segment of this talk where I talked about like the type of things that you need to do in general in life, at least for me, the things that have worked. So if I use your basketball analogy, if you're in high school, are you on the team? Because if you're not on the team, I'm not saying you can't make it, but you have to be on the team. You have to have a coach that you can go to say, hey, what are my weaknesses? Like those are just practical steps. So I think it's always seeking feedback from people that have been down this road. Again, relationship. And I'm not trying to bore you guys by saying this, it's because it's true. But you know, the practical steps are who around you has been down this road. Is it your coach? Are you on the team? How are you getting better every day as well? Are you practicing? And I know we're in a pandemic, but how are you getting better to get yourself ready to play AAU tournaments or whatever the case may be to eventually make it to the league? One thing I'm going to say as well is being able to pivot. Like if you go to a point where you're only good enough to play basketball, say at UFC, take that scholarship, play at the UFC, be willing to pivot because you can always have basketball in your life. Whether as a coach, whether as a dad, whatever the case may be, basketball is always there. It's also being able to pivot. That's what I would say. I hope that helps.
Good. I have one final question maybe, and then I think I'd like to get everybody involved. We'll do a quick round to see what everyone's thoughts are. Would that work out?
Yeah, for sure for me. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, in terms of economic success, what are some like habits of other communities, maybe other immigrant communities that you've seen have success in that space? What is something we could maybe learn from them? Something that we're typically not doing?
Yeah, for sure. I think what I'm going to say is support. What I see, and I don't know the political correctness, but the Indians do this really well. The Jews do this really well, and hopefully that's politically correct to say that. But they support each other. So, you know, if you're going to a grocery store, what grocery stores are you going to? How well are you supporting the people in your community? So I always have my hair cut by someone who's African. I just do that as a way of supporting my community. If we don't spend our dollars in our community, who's going to spend their dollars there? And so that's one thing I think from an economic standpoint that we can do is support ourselves more. But I also think that it's incumbent, like I always say, be a beacon of excellence. And I think Steve Jobs is the one that had a saying like that as well. I think sometimes the reason we don't support each other is we don't do things excellently well. As an example, if I went to Safeway or Co-op, it's always clean. Sometimes, and the service there is phenomenal. People like want to serve, right? And then you go to a store in our community and you have to wait 5 minutes before someone serves you or whatever. I think it's incumbent on business owners in the community to realize that we're in a society where we have to be the best. We have to be on par with the best. We have to deliver service with the best, but it's also incumbent on us to patronize the best. So I typically have people that make my meals because I just don't have time to make food. And I had two different people that used to do it for me. One, her food was amazing, best food ever, except my mom's food. The other one, her food was average, but her customer service was phenomenal. And in the beginning, I used to go to the chick whose food was good, but she'll tell me pick up on Tuesday and then it'll be ready on Friday. It was just always inconsistent. And at some point, as great as her food was, I just stopped going to her completely. And I went to the person that I could trust. It's not the greatest food in the world, but it's good enough and I can trust her service. So I think those two things are things we can do to help ourselves and our communities economically. We gotta try to charge ourselves against the best and deliver that type of service. And we then gotta patronize ourselves as well.
All right. Well, on that note, that's awesome. That's awesome, Sam. Like the 4 words that I've written here: preparation, consistency, relationships, excellence. They're the 4 things that I've taken from your talk today in terms of how the qualities, and integrity. And integrity, I think you and I share that one as well. So I'm going to open it up to the rest of the team or the group to ask what would you say are your takeaways? What are your key takeaways? What are your learnings? What are you more aware of now that, let's say, you weren't aware of before? And just unmute and speak.
I'm gonna make sure everybody goes.
Okay.
Right. Junior, are you back with us? And Junior was there. I saw his hair for a bit, then he disappeared again. All right, I'll send Junior a text. We'll see where he's at. Julie?
Yeah, I think for me, the main key takeaway is just using the resources you have around you. So those are the people around you that can better support you and continue building those like relationships and connections with people that may seem insignificant like at the moment, but in the future they might, they may get promoted to management or something. So you might need their help as well. So I think not burning your bridges as well is a good is a big takeaway that I got from this. Making sure you're, no matter who it is, like you're building good relationships and you're being respectful and you're leaving a good impression behind, basically.
Good stuff. Let's go to Benita next.
Oh yeah. So I think what I learned today was what he talked about, just to guide me through my university years that I have left until I get my professional job. And yeah, like Christiana said, just to have those connections and friends that can help you throughout those events that you have. But yeah.
Good. Let's go Jamima.
So I think like the two things that stuck with me the most was definitely relationships, obviously. Being someone who kind of always pushed that to like later, like, oh, I have time to meet people later. I think it's really something that I have to work on. And then also like consistency, because if you don't have consistency, then you can't really be known for something. Because you can say like, oh yeah, I want to be known for being honest, and then you're honest like 3 times a year, right? So so being consistent with what you do is the way that you will be known for something, and that is also the way that you'll have people vouching for you. I mean, if you have 3 people giving recommendations for you and they're all saying the same thing about you, then like that's even more chances of the person being like, oh, okay, so she must really be that. So I guess, yeah, consistency and building relationships.
Awesome. Let's go Afo, because I saw you texting.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like a lot of what we've been saying is about the biggest takeaway for me is just also this it's never too early to start building the good relations. And like we're saying, even if it's like you just think it's a part-time job, it might not take you far, but like just maintain those relations, make sure they're good, because you never know when you might need them, no matter like how it seems disconnected from where you want to go in life. It's always important to try to foster things. Even like he was saying at the start, how like he didn't really envision himself going in this route. We can always have our ideas in our head of where we want to go, but like they don't always work out like that. So making sure you have that like a wider web essentially of connections is like very important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And even if just like, sorry, just add a bit there, Afro, even if you don't see the value, I think that even practicing it, I think is really, really important. So practicing, that networking, just building these relationships, I think is really, really important. So thanks, Afro.
That's good. Let's go Christiana.
I think like everyone else mentioned, one thing that really hit me as well was when you talked about relationships, especially when you talked about not having to apply for a job. That really got me thinking like, oh, these are really important to kind of foster these relationships and make sure that you have good connections. Also, I like when you touched upon being prepared and making sure you have all your ducks in a row, because sometimes you do forget and get a bit lazy, or we lack consistency, and it's pretty easy to kind of get complacent sometimes when you are just used to seeing things just materialize and not think too much about having to be prepared all the time. And I think the one that really got me thinking as well was when you talked about having to embrace change and being able to pivot, because like I'm not really like studying businesses, but I do notice that a lot of businesses do fail when they can't embrace change, or they don't notice like that they have a changing target market or something like that. And also like being able to pivot is really tied to your personal success. So I think that was pretty pertinent to mention as well.
You guys always give solid answers. Good stuff. Let's go Raisa next.
I will go with consistency because how do I say this? Because people see you as whatever you show up as, like especially when you have a business. Like me, I have a online business. I sell lashes, and something that a lot of people tell me is you need to post every day. You need to do this every day. People need to see you so that, they know that you're alive. And honestly, I don't do that. And it doesn't really help me. But hearing the advice from you kind of like woke me up a bit. And so, yeah.
Solid.
Can I come quickly? Yeah, I just want to say, like, especially when you're a business owner, there's always somebody looking to steal your bacon, I guess is what I say, right? There's somebody else that's selling hair that's going to want to post every day or every week or whatever the case may be, that's going to be consistent. When we talk about careers and stuff, you can get into complacency. When it comes to business, it's kind of a dog world. And I'm not trying to be rude or anything or mean. That's just how it is. So I just like your point, and I'm encouraging you to be consistent because there's somebody else that wants to take your business away from you for sure.
Good stuff. Laurent?
What really took me was mentorship. You get to ask for guidance with our experience with businesses and like other stuff in general. And that gives you like some sort of like mindset to like, everyone start off like short, but then in the end they start off like way above high. So you get to learn their experience, and they'll teach you the ways to like, what they learn. It'll help you grow, and you'll like get the knowledge and teach the next generation. So you can be known for like helping people and showing, the true ways of knowledge and all that. That's what took me. Yeah.
Great answer. Let's go Cristiano next. He just sent me a message, so I know he's there. Cristiano. Okay, we'll wait for him, and we'll go Tutu after that.
Should I go first, or are we waiting for him first?
Go ahead.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of two things, but the first one, I think a lot of people touched upon networking already, either relationship or networking. It's something that it's not just now that I'm starting to think about it, but I've been realizing more and more how important it is to getting jobs and getting the better jobs. But the thing that I think that I didn't think about before that I thought about today was not only networking in a professional setting, but also networking is kind of everywhere you go. Like even, let's say university, you meet people and they're going to be your peers, and who knows where they'll be. And it can be even among your friends. Like people here are talking about starting businesses. If you don't network yourself and have a good network with your friends, maybe if someone's looking for a partner, if you have a good network, they'll be like, oh, maybe I'm not free, but I know this person that, he thinks about that kind of stuff too, and they can be put together. And then the other thing that I thought about was just supporting each other in the community. I don't know about everybody, for us Congolese, I don't know, we're special, man. So we always talk about helping each other, but we're always at each other's throats. You'll go and you'll try to buy, but we always find something to complain about. But it is also really important just to support and not just be at each other's throats, but support and try to help each other, because that's how it's not just helping that one person, but it's really helping the entire community.
Good stuff. Jacob, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I thought, well, my family always has this saying, the more you know, the more you know. And I think it's kind of cool to tie that into relationships. The more people you know, the farther you'll go, kind of thing, you know? So just kind of keeping that in mind, especially with basketball, like connections, connections, connections. Who do you know, kind of thing? You know, I'm going to try to keep that in mind.
Excellent. We'll let some of the facilitators who haven't spoken say a word here. So I got Felicia and Daniel. Let's start with Daniel. Donc, si tu as quelque chose à dire, ou bien si tu as capté quelque chose aujourd'hui, quelque chose à partager.
Ok. Excuse, j'ai aimé par rapport à la notion de relation qu'il a mentionné, la constance dans nos relations. Ça, c'était quelque chose qui m'a beaucoup touché parce qu'il a parlé des relations en tant que savoir se bâtir un réseau, savoir investir dans le temps avec les relations qu'on a aujourd'hui afin d'obtenir quelque chose demain. Premièrement, ça a sonné comme de l'intérêt à mes yeux, mais après, j'ai compris l'idée derrière parce que il a parlé des relations, savoir garder les relations parce qu'on ne sait pas ce que demain va donner. Et après, j'ai compris que s'il n'y a pas des réseaux qui se tissent, s'il n'y a pas de relations qui se tissent, il n'y a aucun avenir même autour de nous parce que nous ne sommes pas des êtres solitaires, nous sommes des êtres qui vivent avec un instinct grégaire, donc un instinct de vivre dans un groupe compact. Donc pour moi, c'est la notion de relation a été très profonde pour moi dans les affaires, dans tous les domaines de la vie. Nous ne sommes pas Luc, le soldat solitaire, nous marchons en tant qu'humains, nous rencontrons des humains. Et pour moi, cela a sonné d'une certaine manière, surtout dans le domaine des finances et dans le domaine professionnel. Si on rencontre aujourd'hui quelqu'un qui peut nous aider demain, ce n'est pas seulement par intérêt, mais c'est la notion de ce que la personne va apporter et ce que toi, tu vas apporter à la personne. Donc, pour moi, c'était très important de savoir que dans les relations que l'on a, non seulement on gagne, mais aussi on a quelque chose à apporter. Donc, tout ce que j'ai retenu est que il faut non seulement avoir des relations, mais bien choisir ces relations, les relations qui t'apportent quelque chose de positif.
Yeah, so he was saying that for him, what stood out was relationships. He thought that it was a little bit like fundamental at first when we were talking about relationship, but he got to hear the depths of it as you kind of went along and spoke there. And the aspect of it that's interesting to him is building it, not just when you have an interest for yourself or an immediate interest, but seeing that long term. And then also seeing the two-way street of it, like you're bringing something, they're bringing something, being able to build something independently, looking at multiple layers there, I guess. Let's go, Felicia.
There we go. Yeah, I think the part that stood out the most to me was the credit parts. Like, I think I love that our young people here in the group are learning about it, because I think even just us back in the day, like we got out of high school and just got a credit card or a couple credit cards and loans and stuff. And I don't even think we realized like how that could be detrimental to us as well as helpful. And so it's so good. Like, I'm so passionate these days about teaching people and what's the word? Informing people of how, like, the best way to use credits and so you can build wealth. And that's like, you need credit, but then money is better than credit. So people focus a lot on like having credit, but having money is more important than having credit, right? So yeah, I just think it was good that he like touched on that and like touched on the business side of things, of how you need to network and know people in order to get like have your own personal banker, have your own personal lawyer in order to make your business grow. So yeah.
Coolio. And now let's go, Carol, Ashley. Final thoughts from you guys.
Thank you so much, Sam. Great presentation. That was really great. There's so many gems that you dropped in this chat. So I really hope people were writing down their notes and can use the gems later. Sorry, my camera, it's getting dark here. So, but one thing that you said that struck me was not just building relationship, but being strategic about the relationships you're building. That was a good one for me because, sometimes we think build relationships and you just kind of run off and start building relationships, but there's a strategy to it. You have to be strategic about it. So I really like that. And integrity is a big thing. I live by that, and we have to be integral. We have to bring that. It's a quality that is so important to have. And I thought, it's good. It's excellent that you spoke about that, and just something that we have to carry throughout our lives. Integrity is just bringing ourselves wherever, presenting ourselves with integrity, which is so important. But yeah, I loved the whole presentation. I think there's so many gems that you dropped, and I was the note taker of the day, so it's all in here.
Well, that's good because I was wondering who's taking notes.
Yeah, nobody asked, but I was like, I just came prepared because Felicia wasn't here at the start, so I thought, okay, Felicia's not here. I'm gonna have to take these notes.
Excellent, thank you.
I see Jamima raised her hand, but I know Cristiano also is back now. So Cristiano, if you want to go ahead.
Really quickly, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say really quickly that I love the part about you saying strategic relationships. Like something that we do in banking is you just see somebody and you're like, that person's gonna. If people have been telling me I'm gonna be a CEO 5 years ago, and I started 6 years ago at the bank. So when you say strategic relationships, you can tell who in your friend circle or who in your whatever has potential for future things. And you got to build those relationships when they're an analyst, not when they're the CEO type thing. Anyway, I love the part of it because we only have so much time. Our time is finite. Making sure you're strategic. I think everyone's saying relationships, but I think the word is strategic relationships. Anyway, I want to mention that.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Cristiano.
Damn, my Wi-Fi keeps cutting off. Damn.
No worries, man.
Damn. I don't know what to say, but I just want to say, like, never give someone else permission to treat you in a way that is contrary to your values and principle and beliefs. You just gotta know what you're doing. Yeah.
Good stuff. I know that you like business too. So what from the presentation did you catch that maybe you didn't know before? You still there? Maybe the Wi-Fi. Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Did you catch the question? It's okay. Let's go to Jamima for now, and then I'll send Cristiano a message.
So I just wanted to ask now, like, what exactly would be the plan to getting a strategic relationship? So, like, obviously, if you have a person who's like really good at their job, they know what they're doing, they have great feedback, they're successful or whatever, and then you guys don't have that personal relationship, so you guys don't get along, you can't work together. And then there's someone else who you get along with, they all of that good stuff, but they're not necessarily good, and they don't really think, like, they don't really plan properly, so those two different people, who would be the person who you want to do business with? Because obviously if you have someone who's organized and all of the positive aspect in the business term, it still won't work because that relationship isn't there. Like you guys can't get along, so you won't agree on anything. But the person who, you know, can't plan, is disorganized, is all over the place, is always late, but you guys get along great. Like, who are you going to pick to be a good partner with? And I think you kind of gave the example of the food. So the person with the good food but bad customer service, and then the person with the okay food and then the good person, the great customer service. I think that kind of plays into that. But like in more of a business term, like what would be the strategic way of choosing which one of those two people would be a good partner?
Yeah, for sure. No, I like that question. And I think like it's a false choice because we have infinite possibilities, right? And so none of them is a good choice, to be honest. Like, I think if you don't get along with somebody, it can get toxic. And then if you get along with somebody, but they don't have the right attributes that you're looking for, or the right things you can learn from, those are just false choices that I don't think are the only choices you have. So, you know, as an example, my only mentors aren't people that work in the bank. There's transferable skills. There's things like hard work and things like that, that whether you're a carpenter or you're the prime minister of the country, you got to work hard, right? Those are transferable skills. So, you know, when I say be strategic, it doesn't have to be somebody you meet at work. It could be somebody in your personal life. It could be a friend of your parents. It just has to be a safe space. And you have to know that you can go to them and get guidance that is useful for you. So, you know, in that example of two choices, I think that's a limiting choice. I don't think either of them are a good fit. And I think you can find somebody if you're intentional. It doesn't have to be where you work. It doesn't have to be where you go to school. It can be anywhere else. But I think that those are limiting choices that neither of them work to me.
If I can just add one more point there, Sam, and my point would be that, Jemima, think about what is your vision? Where do you see yourself? What do you want to do? And that has to be kind of like your compass. You know what I mean? So if your vision is to, I don't know, be a, let's say just own a McDonald's. Let's say you want to get a franchise. That is that vision. So you have to be intentional in terms of which ones you're going to initiate, which ones you're going to maintain, which ones you're going to grow. And also, you also have to think about, I think I told you guys about the boat analogy. Did I mention the boat analogy in one of my sessions? You have to think, okay, you have your boat. Who do you need in that boat to get you towards that vision or that direction or that outcome or that franchise that you want to purchase? So that is what I think you should. And sometimes you may not have the ultimate vision, but what are the next few steps? What are the next few steps? And let that be your compass so that every decision you're making is aligned with moving you closer and closer towards that. Do you understand what I mean? That would be my sort of advice to add on to what Sam
I think that's such an awesome answer, Nketi, because I've faced, like Jemima, what you're talking about is that's exactly me. Like in my work career, like there was places where people smoke. I know it's cliche, but you know, like people go out and smoke and you're gonna actually wonder like, they're talking to each other, or like I know other places people like would walk around like talking comics books or things, random things, but things that I was never ever interested in. And what Nketi said, having a compass, know that sometimes you're gonna take some else. Like sometimes the manager is gonna be closer to that person, but ultimately I'm trying to get somewhere else. So I might not get that supervisor promotion, or might not, you know, get that particular raise, but my long-term vision, if I'm still pursuing that, I'm still okay. There's gonna be times where people connect off of some whatever nonsense, and it's just not you. If they get their benefit from that, it's gonna last, you know, just a bit. Because your work, like what you're talking about, like that's me. I like my work to speak louder than me, you know. So if you promote someone else, cool. But I know you're still gonna need me for some capacity, for something. I'm doing something that is working here. You guys can be best friends, but if I'm still needed for this operation to work, I'm comfortable. And I see Carol has her hand up. And then I think we can start wrapping it up after that.
Yeah. I just wanted to make a comment about what Jemima was saying. You know, Jemima, don't limit, like what Sam said, don't limit yourself. I'll just give you a practical example for myself. I stayed in touch with one of my professors that I had in grad school. And he is actually the Minister of Health in Italy. right? So, and we're in touch, we're on a phone basis. And it's like, he was just one of my professors for, a class. And he used to be, what interested me about him is, so I did international development. So he used to work with the UN. He's been a professor at Harvard and McGill and one of those big institutions. So when I need a reference, we're still in touch. I send him emails, hey, how are you? Just to check in. Even during the pandemic, I sent him an email just to check in because of what was going on in Italy, the crisis that they had. And so I just sent him an email to say, hey, how's it going? Because I know that's the area in which he works in. But it could be just something like that, right? You never know where life is going to take you, but you maintain those relationships because you don't know where you'll end up. Right? It doesn't have to be someone exactly where you work right now. It could be a professor. You build that relationship with a professor of yours that you have. And, later on, as when you need a reference, they're going to be there. They're not going to sit there and be like, who's Jemima? I don't even remember who that is. All right. So it could be something like that if we want to put it practical steps.
Awesome. Dope. I think that's everything. I should say that I talk loud. Maybe I should say I'm loud, but my work's gonna be even louder. That's that. But I think that is everything. Unless Rita, you have any final words for the group? Any final thoughts?
Come on, Bill.
No, I was fumbling around for my mute button. So I don't know. It's just sound like, Caroline, I'd like to borrow a word from you because I was thinking about the word gem. Like, you have given us so many gems today. I don't even know where to start. Like, it's just what we've been looking for. And for me, the tie is always back to the vision we have for this particular CC4AR. It is building your cultural capital. We talked about that. Remember, we're talking about, objectivized cultural capital and cooperated cultural capital. What we are talking about here today is all of the spans of cultural capital that we have. Think about it and go, now that we've listened to this fantastic talk from Sam, we've asked some questions, let me categorize. From all the things that I heard, where do these things belong in terms of me building my cultural capital? And where can that take me to? Because as we have said, yes, we have our cultural capital building, but the intention for all of that is to be able to put ourselves in a place where we don't end up with low income. We don't end up in a situation where we are socially down on our luck. Then it is harder for us to do something about racism when it is meted out to us, or when we see it in a larger systemic context. To me, that is what we are trying to do with each successive class. And Sam has demonstrated to us, not just the micro level, but all the way to the macro level with a credit example. But I can go on and on with all of the lessons that I picked, but I'll just leave it at that because everyone has said something I was thinking about. But Sam, thank you so much.
Round of applause. Awesome.
I can say something quickly. Do you mind?
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to all of you, like Nketi, Ike, Rita, Caroline, all the other people that are paying it forward and using their time to contribute to this. This is actually very useful. Everyone needs this, and so thanks for you guys volunteering your time. And to the younger people on the line, don't limit yourself. I think that forums like this are vitally important. When we talk about relationships, the people you have on this line have relationships that can help you as well. Listen to the things you're learning. This is invaluable. Never miss a session if you can. Be on camera, learn. Like, this is incredibly important stuff. I wish I had this when I was 18. But this is how you build your future. I think Rita said something. You don't want to wait until you're down on your luck and you have to build from the ground up. This is helpful. Take advantage of it. But thank you guys for inviting me. I'm happy to come back anytime you need me. But I just want to say thank you to you guys that organized this, and you guys that are younger, take advantage of this. This is amazing. It's an amazing, incredible forum. I think these things will help you in your future. Thank you.
Wow,
Thank
thank you.
Sorry, I just one thing. I put like a link in the chat. I don't know if people can copy it and just watch that inspirational story. It has so much in it. I'm just wanting everyone to watch it and draw on it for something bigger.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone connect to that link. Watch that. And when we talk next time, we'll be talking about maybe meeting in person and having end of June joint party, everyone. So that'll be exciting. Yeah, yes, finally, everybody will be excited.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Good
See you
night.
guys.
Good, nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Oh.